If you've been told to use words like ubiquitous or pernicious or perspicacious in your IELTS answer to get a high band, then you probably shouldn't do that. Because if your English level is not matching, and if you are not carefully choosing the right context, your language might come across as being unnatural. So the examiner will know that you are just trying so hard. They will basically know that you're not really perspicacious, and overall that will have pernicious impact on your band. In other words, you will end up getting a worse score. So if you want to play a safer game that's easier to implement and very effective in improving your band, keep watching. Hello and welcome, this is Brahim here, and in my videos I've been sharing with you tips and tricks that could help you to score a high band in the IELTS test. In this video, I want to talk to you about using adverbs. Adverbs are really easy to implement, and I think that they make your speech flow more naturally. They also add a level of sophistication to your speech as well. So overall, that can really help improving your band. So today I'm going to share with you few adverbs that you can use throughout the 3 parts of the IELTS speaking test, and I carefully chose for you the type of adverbs that you can literally use with any type of question that comes up in the IELTS speaking test. So we will go through each part individually, and I will highlight for each section which adverbs that can be used. If you stick to the very end, I'm going to share a very useful technique that can be particularly used in part 3. So if you ever feel that you have difficulties generating ideas in part 3, use this technique and you will never run out of things to say. Now let's get right into it. Now if we start with part 1 of the IELTS speaking test, in this section you will be asked about your studies or work, hobbies or interests, or basically your daily routine in general. The first adverb that I'm going to share with you is normally, and it simply means under normal conditions. So if you get asked a question like this one, how many hours do you usually study or work per day? You can simply answer it by, I normally study for about 4 or 5 hours per day. The second adverb that you can also use is typically, and it means in most cases, or even usually. Now, if you get asked a question like this one, how often do you watch TV programs usually? You can answer it by saying, I typically watch TV for about 2 hours per day, mainly Netflix series or movies or whatever you're interested in. And here mainly is also another adverb. Another adverb that you can also use in this section is mostly. And it simply means in most cases or generally. So if you get asked a question like this one, do you often read many books in your spare time? You can answer it with saying, I quite often read books in my spare time, mostly fiction. And it means generally you read more fiction, or mainly you read fiction. Now, if you noticed throughout the 3 questions that we looked at, there was already an adverb in the question itself. However, when I answered, I used a different adverb. So that is known as paraphrasing. And this is a very effective method to demonstrate for the examiner that you are at a higher level. And you should definitely do that. So try not to use the exact same word that the examiner is using in the questions. Now, if we move to the second part of the IELTS speaking test, in this section you will be given a cue card, and then you will have to talk for 1 to 2 minutes about the topic that's described in the card. So you can get asked to describe a person, a place, or something that happened in the past, or simply an object. Now, the first adverb that I'm going to share with you here is initially. And initially, it just means at the beginning or at the start. Another one is eventually or ultimately, and it simply means at the end. Whether you're asked to describe a person or a place or a process that you learned or an event, you can always start by saying how you felt about it initially. That person, how you initially felt about them. Or when you visited that country, how you initially felt about that. Or when you started learning a process, how you initially went about doing that. And then at the end, you can always use this eventually. And you just tell them what happened at the end. So you met that person, you were not very good friends with, but then eventually you became really good friends. Or you visited a country and you did whatever you did there, and eventually it ended up being one of your best memories. Or if it's a process that was very difficult at first, but eventually you managed to get the hang of it. Or if it's an event that didn't start off very well, but eventually it went very smoothly. So there you go. You can also use ultimately, which is slightly different, but for this purpose, let's say it simply means finally. So you can use it at the end. So ultimately, it's the memories that end up from that trip or that event, or ultimately your friendship comes above everything, whether you had to deal with a person. So you can use these in so many different ways. Now let's move to the next one, which is recently. And recently, it just means not long ago. So if you get asked a question like describe a book, or describe a present or a gift that you were given, or describe an occasion that happened somewhere in the past, you can always start by saying recently. I recently read this book, or I recently had to do something, or I recently went to this family event. So recently is also very easy to incorporate. So go for it. And the last one that I'm going to share with you for part 2 is vividly. And vividly simply means in a very clear way. So it is mostly used when you say, I vividly remember. You could always say, I vividly remember when I met that person. Or I vividly remember when I visited that country. Or I vividly remember. So you can literally use it with any question that you get asked. Whenever you're describing something that happened in the past, you can always throw this one, I vividly remember. Or even if you simply wanted to bring up an example or a story. Now let's take a look at a cue card example, and I will demonstrate for you how you can easily incorporate these adverbs when answering the question. So if you get this cue card that's asking you to describe an occasion where you had to do something in a hurry, I will show you how you can answer it. You can describe whatever you want or put your details there, but I'm just going to give you the main sentences where I'm incorporating these adverbs. So you can answer this question by saying, I recently found myself in a tight spot where I had to pick up my friend from the airport, and that happened to be at the same time that my favorite team were playing their final game. I was initially a bit hesitant about missing the game, but eventually I had to prioritize picking up my friend. So I had to drive there quickly. So quickly is another adverb. When I got to the airport, thankfully, his flight was not delayed, so I had enough time to come back and catch up with the game. And obviously you can add your details there, but I just demonstrated with the most essential sentences how I incorporated some adverbs. Now we get to part 3 of the IELTS speaking test, the most dreaded of them all, or the most difficult. But don't get too scared, it's actually pretty simple. If you have the right tools how to tackle the questions which I'm going to give you here. So in this section I'm going to share with you 4 adverbs that you can literally use with any type of question in part 3. And they are very flexible, very versatile. You can use them within any context. The first one is arguably, and it means that it can be argued or it can be proven with arguments that what I'm saying is true. A simple example is AI is arguably the most influential technology of the 21st century. The second adverb is potentially, and it means possibly, or it has the capacity in the future to do something. If we keep talking about the same subject, an example would be AI can potentially change so many aspects of our life. The third adverb is necessarily. And if you use it with the negative form, not necessarily, it means not in all cases or not all the time. If I say it is not necessarily true, it means it's not always in all the cases true. It depends. Or if someone is telling you that AI is very powerful, you could say not necessarily, and then you point out to the weaknesses of AI. The fourth one is particularly, and it just means especially. An example with that is AI can particularly replace repetitive jobs. So there you go. Now you have your 4 adverbs, and to demonstrate for you that you can actually use them with any type of question, so let's take a look at a few questions from official IELTS training material. So if you get this question that's asking you, do you believe that all museums and art galleries should be free? Here is my answer. I think that making museums and art galleries free for everyone can potentially make it accessible for the public and increase cultural awareness. However, it could arguably harm the finances of the museums and make it difficult to maintain. Another question that you can get is, would you say that large numbers of tourists cause problems for local people? Here is my answer. I wouldn't necessarily say that large numbers of tourists are problematic, because I think they have other benefits as well. They can particularly help small local businesses in that local area. Tourists spend a lot of money so they can sustain those businesses, although I do understand that they bring some drawbacks as well. The third question is, do you think it's wrong for parents to influence which friends their children make? I would answer that by saying, I do understand that parents choosing their children's friends can potentially protect them from bad influence. However, I think it can arguably harm their self-dependence. It would make them less independent, or particularly. Now, as I promised you earlier in this video, if you ever feel like you don't really know what to say, there is a technique that you can use. And this technique is actually used in business management. And I think it can also be applicable in this part of the IELTS test. And this technique is simply called SWOT. The S stands for strength, the W for weaknesses, O for opportunities, and T for threats. So whatever topic you are asked about, or whatever point of view the examiner is trying to discuss, think about its advantages, its strengths, or its weaknesses, aka the disadvantages, also the opportunities that it brings, and at the same time the threats. You can have this small table with 4 cells. In each cell you put what you think are the strengths or the weaknesses, and then you have the opportunities and the threats. The strengths and weaknesses, think about them as the advantages and disadvantages. For the opportunities and threats, think about the practical opportunities that can bring, and for the threats, what other practical or external threats that can bring. So to demonstrate for you how you can use this SWOT analysis for any type of questions, let's get back to the question that we just looked at. So if we look at the question that was asking us whether all museums should be free, you can quickly do this SWOT analysis. So start talking about the strengths, and that would be making it accessible for everyone. So anyone can go to a museum or an art gallery. That's a good sign. If you look at the disadvantages, it means that the galleries will be overcrowded. For the opportunities, it would foster cultural enrichment. So there could potentially be more projects. Since art is more accessible for everyone, there can be many community art projects, for example. Or the level of civic culture can increase. For the threat, this can limit the finances of the museums. If the museums are not earning money, how are they going to maintain themselves? But then you can also argue that the government should fund museums and galleries. And there you go, you have a whole new conversation that you can start. In a similar way, if we look at the large number of tourists and the impact on local people, you can do the same analysis. And let's do that. So in terms of the strengths, obviously is the economic benefits. In terms of the disadvantages, it's the disruption to the local people and probably the overcrowded streets. In terms of the opportunities, that will create better infrastructure. If you have many tourists coming over, the government will have to spend on making the public transport better, or opening bigger stores in that area, or bigger brands might move to that area and open new stores. So even when it's off season, the local people can still benefit from those services. In terms of the threats, one might argue about the environmental impact. If you have so many tourists coming over and they are throwing trash somewhere on the beach or on the streets, obviously that might have an impact. Or you can also talk about CO2 emissions. So there you go. So this analysis can easily be applied to most of these questions that you get asked. If you think that this analysis cannot be applicable to the question that you get, or if you still run out of things to say, try coming up with an example. Talk about an example that relates to that question. Or worst case scenario, just tell the examiner a story. If you ever feel like you run out of things to say, just tell them about a story that somehow relates to that question. And there you go. Now we get to the end of this video. Thank you for watching. If you might still have some questions related to part 2, I've actually made a couple of videos on that. So go and watch those. You can learn some smart ways how you can actually prepare. Until I see you in the next video, make sure you are practicing. Ciao.